Welcome, everybody. I'm excited that you're here to join me today for another episode of my Women's Empowerment Series. And I am delighted to welcome Maggie to join us to talk with us today. Maggie, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here, Cindy, and certainly honored to be a part of your series.
So tell the ladies here, what is it that you do?
I am a communicator by trade. I have done in my career various levels and types of either public relations or communications my entire career. Although my current position is a little bit of a stretch outside of what I have normally done. I'm taking my skills, and this was a Cindy Lish lesson, and transferred them into another area where they are certainly applicable. In fact, they are really serving me well. I've moved into a sales enablement role where I am helping our remote sales force with tools that they need to better communicate to customers. So it really is, at the end of the day, working in communications again, but applying those skills towards helping in a different segment of the business. So I now add that to my resume: sales enablement and marketing.
So how does it feel to be back at work?
It feels phenomenal to be back at work. I mean, as you know, Cindy, but people listening may not know, I had already made the leap from stay-at-home mom to going back to work full time. Prior to COVID and prior to even connecting with you, it was really, really difficult. Something that took me years to do on my own. But I was in a job that I loved. I worked for a great company. And then COVID happened. My position, at first, I was furloughed. Then I was laid off with a number of other people in my department. And I was back at square one. And the idea of knowing how long it took me and how much effort and, misfires I had in just trying to get back there, I was truly not in a good place. It was a difficult time, and then it was a difficult time in general because we're in the middle of a pandemic. So, where do you want to work? What do you want to do? Is it going to be virtual? I had a lot that I was trying to juggle and deal with when I came across your posts and I started saying, hey, I think I need a little help here. I wanted to be very purposeful this time in my search for a job, and really wanted to take a step back to kind of think about, is this the right place for me? You don't get the opportunity a lot to reinvent yourself and to really do a deep dive, because most people, you get into your job and you just do it. You don't really raise your head up from the grind and think like, is this my purpose? Is this what I should be doing? So I'm very fortunate that I found you at that time.
Thank you. I mean, that is such a great compliment. And you are correct that most people keep going, they do the grind, they're at a job, they keep doing it, they keep moving forward without analyzing if they're happy with what they're doing. So you talked about making kind of a pivot, a little shift, and learning new skills. Tell me what's exciting about being in a new industry.
I'm in a new industry, but I'm not. So I actually started my career in telecommunications and I'm back in telecommunications, but a huge gap in between. So it may as well be a new industry because the technology has changed tremendously. Looking at my skills and realizing how transferable they were to a different role. I'm still within marketing. I'm still basically in the same type of job that I was in before, but for anybody who is creative and in that role who might be listening, marketing is broad sweeping. And there is a big difference between the marketing person and the communications person or the PR person. They are generally separate roles. So getting someone to see my value from a background that was mostly public relations to moving into a sales and marketing role, was something that I really appreciated. You're looking at that going, you can do this. Like, look at what they're asking for when we looked at the job description and you going, yeah. You just need to rewrite your skills out of the terminology from one role and into the terminology of this role. But, writing, presentations, whether you're doing it as a press release or you're doing it as a PowerPoint, it's communicating information effectively, right?
I remember those conversations we had as we sat there line item by line item, rewriting your resume. What about the fact that technology's changed? How did you find that and then re-entering?
So I kind of just used the same attitude that I used before, is I just sought out the people who I knew, that I started to meet at my new company, who I knew were the subject matter experts, and asked them for a little bit of their time. Hey, I was on that call today and I have to admit like 80% of it went over my head. I wrote a couple of things down. Would you mind just taking a half an hour to kind of just help me piece these together? Or even better, can you recommend some resources, some websites I can go on, some companies I can check out that are in our industry that, that would help me start to develop an understanding? Generally, people are really willing to help, but I think there's a disconnect, and I think people are often afraid to ask because you're afraid to look stupid. Yet you're very, very smart when you ask for help. But
I want to
there's
give you a
that
lot of credit for doing that, right? For not being afraid, for going out there, asking people for help, looking for the resources, and then what, kind of learning on your own, right?
right.
Studying up, putting in a little extra time, working a little later.
Yep. Well, and thank you for saying not being afraid, because of all people how very afraid I was. That's the biggest challenge, right? And the biggest like skill that you can learn is to move forward and step forward in spite of your fear. And to say, I think you and I role played this a little bit, like, what's the worst thing that can happen? Because I'd be like, oh, no, 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 I can't do this. They're going to ask this. And you're like, let's play it out. Let's talk through. So they say no when you ask for this, or they say, what if they said yes, and what is the worst thing that can happen, and realizing, okay, so they say no. The fear, especially I think with women, and I don't want to be disparaging, but we tend to be
True.
very hard on ourselves. We,
Yes.
have to be perfect. We have to have all the right answers. It's a statistic I know you shared, but I've seen it before, where men will apply for a job if they're like 75% meeting the requirements, and a woman, if there's one thing like must know MS Word, well, don't know that, can't do this job, right?
No, actually, men will apply if they know like 50% or 40%, and women feel they have to know 100% or else they won't apply for it. Yeah,
Right.
and we have a hard time. We have a hard time accepting help and asking for help. And I remember it was like the third time, and I'm like, all right, so listen, like what you were doing wasn't working, so we're gonna try it this way, okay? Right? And you're like, all right, fine.
Well, and again, you are drilled into a way of doing things, and that's, I think, the trap, right? This is how we've always done it. But this is how I've always done it. And you're absolutely right when you argued with me to say, well, how'd that work out for you?
Right.
I was
So,
sitting there like,
like, right. But if we could tell everyone by the time we got done, didn't you have two great job offers, right?
I did. And for a long time, because again, the process does take time, and it's frustrating and it's defeating. And for a long time, I would get on the calls with you and tell you like, nothing's going to happen. Nobody wants me. And then it happens, but it didn't happen for nothing. I mean, every week you pushed me to be persistent in finding new jobs to apply for, in rearranging my resume to match up the skills, to just apply. That alone was a huge hump for me, if you remember, to just apply, because there's the fear of what if it's not perfect, and what if my resume isn't right, especially in the career that I do, where it's writing and editing and proofreading. They will really, really nail you if there's that typo in your resume.
I remember that was a big deal, right? You're like, I'm editor, I'm a writer. It's got to be perfect. You were afraid to hit send because what if there was a typo? What if something was going on? Let's talk about now. How has it impacted you and your family, you getting this job? Has anybody noticed that you're happier? Has anyone noticed any transformations in life?
For me, the most important thing is how I feel about myself. I was in a bad position, and it was difficult. At the time when I reached out to you, I was furloughed and then laid off. So I was concerned about income and where the money was coming. I am a single parent. So there was, and in the midst of still finalizing those details on the divorce, so not quite having a really good picture of my or sense of my own financial picture. And it was a big leap of faith and a big decision to make the investment to work with you. But I thought back to a truism, something that probably my mother used to say is, what better investment can you make than investing in yourself? I remind myself when I do get scared, you can do this. You're doing this. You have the skill set. You are smart. For me, it was about you helping me move the needle past a lot of imposter syndrome I had too. Everyone's going to figure out I don't know what I'm talking about, well, and you'd be like, you're doing it. Your resume shows that you know what you're talking about. But so, if there was any one, I think, big result of this and working again, it's my own attitude towards myself. And I think other people notice that about me. The job is a great thing because we all need to work. We need the money. We need the financial security to be stable. But you had helped me build the confidence to walk in there. And that makes all the difference, I think, in everything, right? Because it spreads across all the things that you might do.
Every part of what you are. Thank you for that. Yeah, and it is that whole big picture. It's how you feel about yourself all the time. You were talking about how we as women are very hard on ourselves. I was just talking to somebody the other day, and she says, at the end of the day, I look to see everything that I didn't do that day. And I said, how about at the end of the day, you look to see everything you did that day?
Right.
And look at what you accomplished that day instead of what you didn't accomplish that day. Right. Making that shift. And that's where we're so hard on ourselves as women. We look to put ourselves down. Right. If we have 50 things on our list and we did 49 of them, we'll only concentrate on the one thing we didn't do well.
I didn't get to this. I didn't do the laundry, right? And
who cares about the laundry? It'll be dirty again tomorrow.
Well, and and the other part about it, between building the confidence is what I needed, and what I think another like amazing thing that I got from working with you was, in a big factor in moving past the fear is to just do it, right? Like, you need to do it, but you're afraid. And
Yes.
having you as a partner, you held me accountable. And I know you love this story, and if you want to share it, you can, about it was right from the get-go. It was our second session, right?
It was our second session. Do you want me to share the story? I'd love to share the story. So it was our second session, and Maggie texted me 15 minutes before our session, and she said, I need to cancel our session. I haven't done the work from the week. I need to cancel our session. And I wrote back to her, because my clients all have the ability to text me. And I said, then we'll do it together. And I got onto the session, and I did not know what to expect. When I didn't know Maggie very well, we'd only had one session, and she's fighting me before we even start the second session. And she got onto the screen and she said, thank you. Thank you for holding me accountable. And I was so impressed at that moment with who you were. Okay, for just realizing that it wasn't going to just happen. It wasn't just going to be easy. If it was that, it's not just let's write one resume in 5 minutes and send it. That's not what it's about. But it's about really taking the steps, learning the process, knowing what you have to do, finding the right jobs,
right?
Having that confidence. It takes a little time to boost that confidence and remind you of what you can do and what you have done.
Absolutely. And what was the quote when we talked about this and laughed about it? I said the truism that nothing worthwhile is easy. If it was easy to do, then really would it be,
Theodore
right?
Roosevelt, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. And that's absolutely true in this situation. It's, but it's daunting to put in the work. It's daunting to say, I'm going to do this. And because it's every time you apply for a job, you're putting yourself out there. It's like blind dating, right? I'm much more cognizant now of giving myself that gut check of, is this what I want to be doing? Am I on the right path? Maybe thinking about other things that I enjoy doing, is this in my, purview? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing this? I don't think that I ever approached my career like that before, but I think successful people do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you can't just get 5 years in the future, 10 years in the future and say, why am I not at this level? Why haven't I gotten the promotions? Why haven't I gotten the raises? Why am I still in the same job? You have to think about it. You have to plan for it. You have to get the knowledge, the education, learn the skills, ask the questions now to prepare for the future. So any final words for stay-at-home moms and single moms who are just so paralyzed with fear to move forward for something they know that they need to do?
It's scary, but having someone who is both your coach and your person who holds you accountable is a huge step, because it's baby steps. You know, each week you broke it into chunks and you said, now you're going to do this. Now you're going to do this. Now you're going to do this. It's hard to think in that mode. It's hard to break it down into pieces sometimes when you're so overwhelmed and you're so scared. And again, to repeat something I said earlier, you know, there's no greater investment in yourself. You might be daunted and you might look at it and say, well, I'm already down a hole. I shouldn't be spending any more money. In fact, when I started doing this, I had people going, you're not spending money right now. And I said, but I'm spending money to make money. And I did. It was the best. Again,
Really did,
you'd invest in new tires for your car. You'd invest in doing, you know, other home improvement things because you know you have to. Why wouldn't you put money into yourself?
Another woman thing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
another
you
woman
buy
thing.
your children their sports equipment and you take them to ballet and you do for others, and oh well, I have to do this. I have to get an SAT tutor for my child, or I have to do this. And sure, you evaluate the costs, but you know you need to do that in order to move them to the next level. This is the same thing. You're worth it. You're worth the time. You're worth the effort, because no one's going to care more than you. You know, love yourself. You know, and it's so worth it, and you'll find yourself on a path, as I said earlier, better than just your career. So important right now, right? Because we put our needs last. We don't do things for ourselves. And what better gift can you give for yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Maggie. It has been an absolute pleasure to chat with you and for you to tell your story, to inspire all these other mothers to, you know, go on the same journey just like you.
It
Thank
was
you
my pleasure
so
to speak
much.
with you. Thank you for reaching out. Again, I'm honored to be a part of your series, and I can't wait to see everybody else's story as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.